Alright, hey guys, so today is the 7-year anniversary of Operation Lefty Grove, Extortion 17. I would like to extend my prayers to all the families, and I'm going to continue from the video from yesterday. Well, it was last night, kind of early morning. Anyway, so let's just kind of go over what I finished with. I was talking about that Promise software and how it's been used in almost all of our big incidences that we've had, and how Osama bin Laden was not anything like what we thought he was, what we were told. So I'm going to start in 1987 in Sudan. This is where the entire Osama bin Laden story was actually scripted. George Bush Sr. came to find out about this Wanta slush fund, and he wanted to know how large this fund was. And when he found out that it was a staggering $27.5 trillion, he obviously was extremely interested. And so what he did, well, what they put into place was to get a wire chip transfer from BCCI Bank to the to Leah Wanta's account. Right after it hit that account, he was arrested for tax evasion. Pretty crazy, yes. Well, in court, he stated, "You unfreeze my assets, I have no problem paying the taxes, but the money is going back to the American people. That's who it belongs to. It's not yours. No other person should be touching this money." Well, that didn't exactly happen. And they then arrested some of the other ones that were tied in. So essentially Bush was kind of just over everything now. Except for Tim Osman, who has eluded, since 1987, whatever. Okay, in comes Cofer Black. Cofer Black was instrumental in the capture of Carlos the Jackal in Sudan, and he had warned the U.S. of this new phenomenon coming out of Afghanistan called the Jalab, named Osama bin Laden. Scary. Just before his capturing of Carlos the Jackal, Cofer Black had met this tall shaky from Yemen, who was on a rumor exile from his own country for opposing American presidents near Mecca and Medina. The entire Osama bin Laden character, that's what it was scripted into. It was all from Cofer Black, Billy Wall, Gary Strolin, Mitchell, Billy Casey, Hassan al-Tabad of Sudan. So they built this convenient boogeyman, phantom terrorist. It was actually a billionaire named Osama bin Laden. It's so crazy. But they needed him to siphon out the cash from that slush fund, right? Bush Sr. met with a man named Hinckley, who was ex-CIA veteran whose son actually was involved in the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was shot 3 times by Hinckley Jr., but he was, of course, saved by the big man upstairs. But at this point, Ronald Reagan was a little bit freaked out and terrified, to say the least. But he knew what was going on. He wasn't stupid. So he went ahead and let Bush be the president, essentially, while he was actually the vice president. But this made Vice President Bush, the CIA connections form with ISS, the Mujahideen Northern Alliance, who were fighting the last stages of the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. The guy they found there was the predecessor of Tim Osman. His name was Ahmed Shah Massoud. Later on, he was ironically assassinated on September 10th, almost immediately after he uttered the fateful words in an interview that, quote, something major will be happening inside the U.S. and it involves airplanes. It will be planned by the U.S., ISI, and Taliban. Ahmad Shah Massoud, his annual salary for perpetrating these wars in Afghanistan was a staggering $44 million to $65 million a year, supplied by none other than the United States, well, the CIA, so our tax funds. And so when the Taliban found out about this slush fund, they got a little greedy too. Hey, that's a lot of money. Tim Osman at this time was already kind of schlepping it up, doing it the smart way though, using the bin Laden network of real estate in Saudi and other Arab countries in the Middle East by using Bush's oil interests and his ties with the bin Laden under a holding company conveniently named Jihad Incorporated. I'm not kidding. The Bushes knew this, but they went ahead and let it be a ruse to go after each Muslim country which had oil, which is what we are still doing right now. The U.S. government never brings into question the real man behind the Taliban, Mullah Muhammad Omar. At this point, we have Bill Clinton. He's up and coming, growing in popularity, intelligent. He talked and did all, so they went ahead and let him be the next president. Bush didn't get his second term. The BCCI was completely operational from China, Pakistan, and Bahrain. At different banks there, China and the Bank of Bahrain, with the help of course, Tim Osman and Michael Rosicon, his last name is so long, the one that stole Promise Software. The Promise Software to, for that safer money laundering throughout the Islamic nations without letting the NATO alliance know about the operations due to U.S. shutdown of BCCI in China. Lots of employees of BCCI later became employees of HSBC, Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, GE Capital, and a few others. This same Promise software was being used by top-level insider trading, like I was saying, specifically for put options on United Airlines, the World Trade Center, American Airlines, Raytheon, Nordstrom, P-Tech, Stratford, L3 Communications, formerly Lehman Brothers, the ones that are now making the TSA scanners, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Stanley Wells Fargo, etc. So this really proves that all these high-level people knew what was going on before 9/11. I also want to mention many people have been murdered over this Promise software. Reporting on it, being involved in it, many. So let's go ahead and move on to 2011. So supposedly February of 2011, the CIA sets up a base in the in Abbottabad, pretty much by a military establishment, training base in Pakistan. Come on, if the CIA had any type of base, everybody in at least a 50-mile radius would have known about this. And I know this for essentially a fact. I even talked to another Pakistani person today, and he was like, it's absolutely ridiculous. There was never any type of surveillance going on for this Osama bin Laden. It's so ridiculous. But of course, it's like we're way over here in America. Why would we know what's going on over there or what kind of technology they have? We don't know. Anyway, so in March to April timeframe, the government starts talking about needing to increase the debt ceiling to top it to $14 trillion. Why $14 trillion? Well, I'll get to that. Someone very convenient placed a giant scrolling marquee in New York Times Square billboard for everyone to see and get frightened about the increasing debt. That was pretty convenient plan, right? Ironically, they say 14 trillion is what we owe. Who do we owe this to? They can't and won't tell us. It just like when they lost the trillions from the Pentagon. So, what this obviously would tell anybody researching anything is you need to follow the money. Anytime you're in situations like this, following the money usually is going to get you to the root of the issue. And now this is when Obama leaves for Ireland to say he's going to find his roots. Really? His roots? Okay. As he returns on April 27th, Ben Bernanke tells the government we need to increase that debt ceiling immediately. The lenders are ready. We got to get this going. All right? We got to get this going. We only have a small window of time because remember, they all have to get their fingerprints, retinal scans. Everything has to be like done. So you better whip the Republicans into, voting yes to increase the debt ceiling. The money lenders are ready. They're not waiting. Okay, we need to get that line of credit as soon as possible. Almost immediately, Nancy Pelosi and John Bowman agree, and all is good except for one good man who sees this instantly, does it, and thinks it's not good. And that was Rand Paul. That's Ron Paul's son. Also, let's not forget what was going on in early 2011. The birther movement was taken off. Donald Trump had grabbed hold to it and was pushing it. On April 30th at the radio and TV journalist dinner, which is absolutely a joke, but I digress. The President of the United States is joking about the actual birther movement and having a great old time, like nothing's even going on. But supposedly this is when he said for them to go kill Osama bin Laden. Right. That makes sense, right? Shouldn't he be in the war room? I don't know. I digress. So, I have a friend. He's one of my sources. And he told me a kind of a funny story. That the day that they announced Osama bin Laden had been killed, I'm going to quote what he said. He said that his wife came in and he was working on he said, come in. It was on the news or whatever, and I was on my computer, I was on the internet, I wasn't looking at the news, like whatever. But she dragged me into the living room because I was busy, whatever. At that moment, she's saying it all excited. We got him. Osama bin Laden is dead. Well, it seems. He quickly turns around and says who? She said, Obama's about to be on the news and announce it. Come on, come watch CNN. So he's looking around like, looking for the day. Is this April Fool's? What's going on? Rolling his eyes. Maybe they miscalculated that. He's thinking, yeah, it's a joke, right? Because obviously Osama bin Laden's not in Pakistan. Because he knows that. Because he's my source. And anyway, so thoughts start running through his mind, like no release of photos. Kill Osama, when this is kind of the same thing with Saddam, Gaddafi, all these things are just not adding up. And Rand Paul knew this too. He was like, I see a very strange connection between the Osama bin Laden raid, killing, and the debt ceiling matter. There really are some good, uncorrupted politicians. Unfortunately, they just don't last long because we know why. But here's another significant connection to the raid. That 100 million pound wedding that the British prince was having. There was a man named Abu Hamas who was known as a Muslim radical who was threatening to do a repeat broadcast of the Mumbai terror, but this time he was going to do it in Britain. And he was holding a British passport, but operating out of Pakistan with a group that I'm not even going to try to say because it's really hard. La Casa Tabi. I don't know. So, what it really looks like is the British government put extreme pressure on Obama to take this Abu Hamas out in Pakistan. At first, they felt that a drone attack would be sufficient. The Queen thought this anyway. She's whatever. But Obama knew that a drone attack near Abbottabad would mean engaging Pakistan in a war, like as in a real military war, not where we're like begging and training people to pretend to be our allies and stuff like that. Because guys, that's really what's going on. The CIA trains these Taliban people, and it's just very strange. But Pakistan has it kind of under control. Anyway, and I'm not taking up for any sides. I'm just saying what the CIA is doing is terrible. So, giving the pressure from the Queen, Obama accepted to go in for this operation with only if they could take the Afghan trained special ops team, not just the Navy SEAL Team 6, because they had to be able to get in. There is some indication that SEAL Team 6 was not there at all, or there was only like one. But because the Queen didn't want Buckingham Palace. They actually thought maybe even Prince Harry was a target because he was a pilot and stuff. They didn't know if they were going to try to take down his chopper or something, so they had to take this Abu Hamas down. So Osama bin Laden, was really tall, like 6'6" or something. But the man that they saw with drone satellites was obviously not. But the SEAL team, the special ops team, didn't know the whole details. They're just told this is your mission, okay? There were many Chinooks operating in theater the night of May 1st in Pakistan. The radar managers had to allow the drivers to come into the most secure zone of Pakistan's military, essentially like what we would consider the West Wing of the Pentagon. So the military in that country knew that there was some kind of drill, something going on. We've got Afghans, U.S. soldiers, Chinooks, something's going to happen, and it's not going to be good. But as soon as one of the Chinooks stationed over that compound in midair and a commando started to drop down, they knew they needed to react. So an alert military general from Abbottabad ordered the Pakistani military soldiers to use their infamous 4-1st gun station not far from there, but it's an anti-aircraft gun. It has long range, and they were shot down. That's to what they, pretty much the onlookers, that's what they didn't want us to know, that the mission actually was failed. But people saw, you know, among the dead Americans, they saw Pakistani people. It was just a whole mess. President Obama avoided telling the Americans what really happened on May 1st. If I were him that night, I would have spoken truth, even if it would have costed me the presidency. But we know he wouldn't have done that. So how did it all go after this? Alright, so a backup Chinook to go in and look for any dead or surviving American soldiers, so the Pakistani officials don't get their hand on any Americans. And by that time, they had landed near the compound. There was a Pakistani who tweeted a message on Twitter that instantly became world news. And it just simply said, helicopters flying and gun firing at 1:30 a.m. This is surely a rare sign in Abbottabad. So Obama freaks out, shuts down the operation, didn't even continue watching the television monitors, pulled them out, like, hey, we're out. We have to get something together before the Pakistanis wake up and they go on the news and say that an American mission failed. So, well, heck, what could we think of? Oh, I got it. We got Osama bin Laden. That's literally what happened. He's just like, hey, let's just tell him we killed Osama bin Laden. He's not a real person anyway. I mean, that is insane. He's like, yep. And you know, that's one of his biggest accomplishments. I killed Osama bin Laden. But you're probably wondering where Extortion 17 comes into that. But, well, what happened was, during that, they started fleshing out the kids and everything, and there was a little girl that said they killed Hamas, and one of the special ops members reached inside the building to, and they saw Abu Hamas, who they wanted to arrest anyway. They asked him to show him his hands. Clearly, he couldn't show him his hands because the real Abu Hamas had lost his hands and the ability, you know, his abilities to use his hands from a bomb. I think he had one hook hand and then couldn't use the other one from a bomb attack in India. But these special ops, they didn't know. All they were told was there was a high-value target in this compound, and they needed to go in and get him. So when he didn't raise up his hands, first reaction, they just took a shot. And that's, you know, when they really noticed that he's not 6'6". He's not skinny. He's kind of bigger, more bulkier than this Osama bin Laden that they have known about. So damage control had to happen. So let's bury him at sea. That makes perfect sense. So if you look at the time frame of the actual burial at sea, the time to get from Abbottabad to the burial, there's absolutely no way, no how, the fastest, no way could it have happened. But yes, it was a decoy, was not Osama bin Laden. Now, how does this connect to Extortion 17 Operation Lefty Grip? Well, you see, the SEALs started talking amongst each other. And I'm not saying that they were going to say anything. I mean, maybe even one or two of them. That, you know, maybe nobody even... But Obama and them felt that they would possibly talk. And I'm going to get into that in the next video. But if you're wondering, well, why has Pakistan not said anything to this point? Well, you could pretty much have anybody go along with your story when you give them $68 billion. Another thing is, how come the Pakistanis couldn't just do DNA tests to see if it was him? I mean, come on. And then after that, I mean, the whole thing, it just doesn't even... But they know that we're not going to look into it. So they give us this stuff on the mainstream media, and we just fall for it. And then we don't know that this, you know, now all of these lives are in danger because they know that this didn't happen. So, again, prayers for the family. And please like, share, subscribe. We need to get truth and justice for this.